Hello and welcome to this Zoom Master Guide to the autumn competitions. This is a technical presentation. It's not a complete analysis of a Zoom Master's job, nor is it a complete analysis of the rules. Hopefully you've run a few club meetings before and you understand how Zoom works. These guidelines do not invalidate any contest rules, whether you follow them or not. However, I suggest that the advice behind these rules will make life much easier for you. So firstly, when you prepare to start and you create the meeting, make sure that breakout rooms are enabled. Make sure you start with video and audio off for all. It'll make life so much easier. Disable allowing people to turn on their audio. You should not have your personal video on at any time. So make sure that your profile pic is something applicable. We're going to use naming conventions for all the role holders so it's easy to work out who is who. This makes it easier for you to find people, as you can have quite a few people at a club meeting. You might have 50, 60 people, and if you want to speak to or action the contest chair quickly, you won't be able to find them quickly. This setup should be enabled by asking the role holders to do this at the briefings before the contest is held. These are the suggested names: contest chair, CC, chief judge, CG or CJ, depending if you can spell or not. Did you notice that deliberate mistake? Judges J1 to 9. Judges should not have their name afterwards. They should not have any profile pictures. You should make sure when they join that that is true. You don't want them being identified. Have notes to know which one is the tiebreaker judge. Timekeepers, TK1 and 2 maybe. Sergeant Arms, SAA or SAR, depending on your preference. Ballot counters, BC1 and 2. Zoom Masters, you may be Z1 and your backup Z2 if you have one. At a club meeting, we don't tend to go to such extreme of backups as we would at an area or higher contest. Now the typical thing is to have S1 to 9 for your speakers, but you've got two competitions, therefore you may want to use HC for Humorous Contest 1 to 9 and TT for Table Topics 1 to 9. Why are we numbering them? Because it's the order in which they have drawn lots to join the competition. That'll make it easier for you to work out who is next. We need security in chat. We do not want people sending random messages to random people, especially not judges. So we should have unmute disabled so people cannot start shouting down the microphones, and we should have chat limited to host only. You will make your chief judge and your contest chair co-hosts, and that way they can still be involved in the chat. But no one will be able to send chat messages to the contestants or judges except you, the contest chair and the chief judge. And so, as I said, make them co-hosts. That will allow them to make and see the chat and have a bit more visibility to turn on and off their microphones without having to ask you permission. When we first start, we have to make sure that all our role holders are there, that they are double briefed to make sure that they all are correct and they know what they're doing. And therefore we're going to open a set of rooms. We're going to have a room to put in the judges, the contestants, other main roles, and you can have a room for the audience. Hopefully the role holders will get in first and you won't need the room for the audience, but if audience members turn up early, put them into a separate audience room so that they're out of the way. This way you can have one person at a time admitted from the waiting room. You can then check that that person is correctly set up if they're a role holder, put them into the breakout room appropriate to them, and then carry on. Your options for setting up these breakout rooms are move participants auto, so they are moved when you want them to be moved. Do not allow participants to return, so they all stay in their breakout rooms until you are finished, and set a countdown of 10 seconds, because when you do close the rooms, you don't want to wait around. So, admit people one by one. Check their credentials. Make sure that judges have their their J name, their real name taken away. They have no profile pic active. Sort them out, then put them into the judges' room. Sort out all the other role holders, make sure they have their prefixes on all their names. Otherwise, you're going to have life much harder finding everybody. Once your judges in and your main role holders are in and you're happy with that, then you can let everybody in, admit all. You can even turn off the waiting room if you really want to. Just get everybody in the system. When the chief judge has spoken to the judges, all the other role holders, and is happy, the meeting can start. You can start the meeting by closing all the breakout rooms. Then everybody will be brought into the main room ready to start. Now it may be the Sergeant at Arms is going to start the meeting. It may be the contest chair will take over straight away. That is up to them, but they can start the introductions, welcomes. They can do the reference to the chief judge to make sure that everything's set up and correct as well. Now you are going to need to set up some new breakout rooms for the end of the contest. You're going to need a room for the judges, for the timekeepers, for the counting of the votes. Your options this time need to change. Move participants should be auto, so that when you move somebody they move straight away, but you need to allow participants to return so those role holders can come out of the rooms if they need to. Set the countdown to 10 seconds. So the contest chair is going to open the actual contest, going to confirm with the chief judge, and the timekeepers are going to be there. One timekeeper is going to be timekeeper 1 with the lights on. Everybody else should be video off. Only the contest chair and the timekeeper should be seen to start with. And by the way, you Zoom masters, I never want to see any of you on stage ever. You've got no reason to be. You are just a task maker in the background. Please don't go on camera. So for the humorous speech contest, the contest chair is going to request each contestant in turn. And you will have to help them because we have disabled their ability to unmute. Maybe invite them to turn on their video and they will then come into the meeting. The contest chair will then be responsible for doing a sound check to make sure they are working and they can be heard, to remind them that they need to pin or in any way that they want to do, but they need to make sure that they can see the timekeeper. They should have the video setting that all people not on video are hidden, and that way they will just see the people with the video on and it will be so much easier for them. I suggest you have an applause video sound effect type thing so that you can play that at the end of each contestant. Have exactly the same sound effect each time, and then it's fair for everybody. So when the contestant is finished and they make whatever they do to make it obvious that they've finished their speech, the timekeeper is going to stop their time. You can put some applause in. Agree that with the contest chair. Then absolute silence. Nobody does anything apart from turn off the contestant's camera, turn off the contestant's audio so they've disappeared. Leave everybody else like they are and obey the 1 minute silence for the judges. At the end of the 1 minute, the timekeeper will either by a light or by a sound, depending what the contest chair wants, will then tell you, everybody, in fact, that a minute's up, and the contest chair can then call in for the next guest to be the speaker, and we go again. When the last contestant is finished, again, the contest chair is going to ask for silence. But at this point, you need to move all the judges into the judges' room. Now, it doesn't matter that they're in the minute of their writing because they're not going to be looking at their screen. At least I hope they're not. They are going to be going through their notes, writing their notes for the last contestant. So you just pick them up and virtually move all of the judges into the judges' room so that they can carry on with their voting. And you can either wait for them to send you a message to say that they are finished, or you can put the chief judge and the ballot counters in there. That's up to you and the chief judge to decide, but at some point the chief judge and the ballot counters will need to join the judges when they've finished tallying up all their votes so that the votes can be passed on to the chief judge and the ballot counters. When the chief judge and the ballot counters have got their votes, then they will need to be moved into the timekeeper's room, and you will need to move the timekeepers into the timekeeper's breakout room so that they can have a discussion about the timings and make sure that if there are any time penalties, that is sorted out then. Then the ballot counter and the chief judge need to go into the voting room so that they can sort out the final tally of votes. All these things happen in a timescale as long as it takes. Meanwhile, in the main room, what can be going on? Well, the contestants could be interviewed, there could be competitions, there could be warm-up, warm-downs, whatever's going on. So for ease, it may be a good idea just to change the security setting to allow everybody to unmute if they need to, so that they can look after themselves and you can worry about looking after the judges. If you do make changes to the settings, then make sure you reset them back afterwards. You don't want people turning on the microphones in the middle of the next contest. When the voting is completed, the chief judge will message you to let you know, and you can then work with them. Now, presentations at the end? Don't know. But the chief judge should, after the voting, should be able to alert you and let you know where they're going so that you can keep in contact with them and progress them through the system. If there's a protest, then the chief judge will let you know that somebody wishes to do a protest. That person will make their protest to the judges, so they will need to be moved into the judges' room. If the judges have left the room, they'll have to go back into the room, which is why it's best that they just stay there for now. And then that person leaves the room. The judges then vote whether the protest is valid for the contest. If it is, then the contestant will then need to be moved into that room, and they will then answer the protest, and then they will leave the room and the judges will do a final vote on whether the protest is valid or not. This is up to the chief judge really to let you know what's going on and ask you to do things. So just take the lead from the chief judge. At the end of the humorous speech competition, all judging complete, you can close all the breakout rooms. You may have the presentation there. I'm guessing most people are not going to have the presentation there, going to have it later. So just close the breakout rooms, bring everybody back into the main room, and then have a break. Make sure that everybody has a proper break, walks away from the computer. You need time out, so please encourage everybody to walk away from their computers, go and have a cup of tea, look out the window, whatever, get away from the computer, rest for a while, and then come back. So we have a table topics competition. You're going to need another set of breakout rooms. Yep, this time you need room for contestants, room for judges, room for timers, and a voting room. You can have move participants as auto, but you will have to allow participants to return because the contestants are going to have to bring themselves back into the main room. And the countdown of 10 seconds. So we all come back together. We are now ready for a contest. The contest chair is ready to start, does whatever conversation they want with the chief judge to make sure everybody's briefed and everybody's ready. When it is all okay, you must now put all the table topics contestants in the breakout room. You could leave the first one behind. That's up to you. Personally, I would put all the contestants in the breakout room. This will allow the contest chair to address the audience about what's going to happen. And you need to confirm to the contest chair that all the contestants are in the breakout room so the contest chair knows everything's fine. Upon request of the contest chair, you will need to go into the breakout room and ask the contestant to join the main room. They have to leave the room. You can't do it for them. They then need their microphone and video enabled, so enable their microphone for them. Make sure that this option is turned off so nobody else in the audience can turn on their microphone. And ask them to enable their video. The contest chair will then do a sound check with them, confirm that they can be heard and seen, make sure that they've posted or pinned the timekeeper so they can see that, and then they are ready to do their contest. You might want to use the applause. How you use the applause is up to you, but the contest, sorry, let's go back. The contest chair will then ask the question, and the contestant will then answer the question, and at the end of that, maybe the recording of applause put on the end would be a nice way to finish the section. When they've completed, make sure their microphone's off, their camera's off. You're going to have a 1 minute of silence after each contestant, and then you bring the next one in. But after the last contestant, of course, we will then move all the judges back into the judges' room so that they can do their deliberation. It's the same way as before. When you get them all in the room, then let the contest chair know that all the judges have left the room, so the contest chair can do whatever they want, and the timekeepers need to move into their room so they can do their calculations as well. Here we go again with the same system. When the voting of the judges has all been completed, they've tallied up, and they have as long as they like, then the chief judge and the ballot counters will need to go into the room to join them, which again can only be done by you. And then once they have done that and they've got their votes, then they need to go into the timekeepers, get the timekeepers report, see if there's any disqualifications, any time errors or whatever, sort that out. And then lastly, go into their own voting room where they can do deliberation and sort things out. And the chief judge can keep you messaged and keep you concerned about how that works. How you do that is up to you, whether you have a WhatsApp message directly to them or they send you a message request. It's up to you, but that's the process. If there is a challenge, then it's the same issue. A contestant or a judge raises a challenge, so they need to go in with the judges in the judges' room to make the protest. Then they leave. The judges vote on whether they think the protest is valid. If the protest is valid, the contestant concerned goes in with the judges. They then have a chance to make representation, and then they come out of the room and the judges then vote on whether the protest is upheld or not. And of course, you've got to do a lot of the moving in and out. While you do the moving in, they can move out on their own. At the end of the contest, when all the judging is completed, you can then have your presentations, so you can close the rooms. Who's gonna do any awards that you're gonna do, a PowerPoint slide or whatever? Probably best if it's the chief judge, but it could be somebody else. That has to be all worked out between you, who is going to do the presentation and who's going to do that. Of course, you need to make sure screen sharing is on for that, but if it's a chief judge as co-host, then they will be able to have screen sharing options without allowing the audience to screen share. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It does sound quite a lot, but actually it's not a big job, as you see, and I would just practice breakout rooms, give you confidence, because that's the one area where things are different for you than a normal meeting. But enjoy it, and good luck.